The war begins. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless civilizations, each ruling their own part of space. Some were peaceful, some were aggressive, but all had one thing in common. They feared war. For many years, the great empires of the stars had lived in a fragile peace. Treaties were signed, alliances were made, and everyone hoped that war would never return. But peace never lasts forever. Then, the HFY came. No one knew where they came from. Their warships appeared in deep space like ghosts, attacking without warning. Entire planets were burned to the ground, their people wiped out. The HFY did not negotiate. They did not demand surrender. They only destroyed. Within weeks, the news spread across the galaxy. A great war had begun. The galaxy reacts. Panic spread among the alien races. The HFY were stronger than anything they had seen before. Their ships moved faster, their weapons burned hotter, and their soldiers fought like demons. Many species tried to fight back, but their fleets were crushed. Others begged for mercy, but the HFY never answered. Fear gripped the universe as planets fell one after another. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, leaders from different worlds gathered to discuss their options. Some wanted to surrender, hoping to be spared. Others wanted to flee, to hide in the darkest corners of space. And then someone asked the most important question. What about the humans? Humanity's silence. The leaders turned to their human representatives, expecting panic, expecting desperation. But instead, humanity was silent. There were no messages of fear, no cries for help, no desperate pleas for allies. Instead, humanity simply watched. Alien spies were sent to observe human space. They expected to see chaos, evacuations, protests, fear in the streets. But what they found was something else. Earth's military forces did not scramble in confusion. There were no emergency meetings broadcast to the public. Instead, human fleets began moving quietly. Massive ships vanished into deep space, their destinations unknown. Factory worlds doubled their production, churning out weapons and warships at an unnatural speed. Special forces teams disappeared from known space, their missions classified. It was as if humanity had been preparing for this war long before it even started. And that terrified the rest of the galaxy. The first attack on humanity. The HFY had crushed every race they had faced so far. To them, humanity was just another weak species, another world to burn. Their first target was Colony 56, a human settlement on the edge of known space. It was a small colony, barely defended, a perfect target for an easy victory. A fleet of HFY warships arrived in orbit, their weapons charging. They sent no warning, no demands. They prepared to erase the colony from existence. But something was wrong. Their sensors picked up no distress signals from the planet, no evacuation ships, no desperate calls for help. The colony was waiting. And then, without warning, the sky erupted with fire. A war like no other. From beneath the surface, massive planetary cannons roared to life, sending beams of energy slicing through the enemy fleet. Stealth ships, hidden among asteroids, struck from the shadows, tearing HFY vessels apart before they could react. Within minutes, half of the invasion force was destroyed. The HFY had expected fear, but they found a trap. They had expected an easy fight, but they found prepared warriors. The surviving ships tried to flee, but humanity did not let them escape. For the first time since the war began, the HFY lost a battle. And the galaxy, watching in stunned silence, realized that humanity was not afraid. They were ready. Humanity's silent preparation. The HFY fleet never returned from Colony 56. The Galactic Council waited for reports, expecting to hear of the colony's destruction. Instead, they heard nothing. No distress calls, no emergency signals, just silence. It was the same silence that had surrounded humanity since the war began. And that silence was terrifying. Whispers in the dark, Rumors spread across the galaxy. The HFY, undefeated until now, had suffered a mysterious loss. But no one knew what had happened. Their ships had vanished. Their soldiers never sent messages back. Alien spies tried to uncover the truth. They hacked into human networks, intercepted military transmissions, infiltrated secret bases. They found nothing. No victory celebrations, no warnings to other colonies, no broadcasts boasting about the HFY defeat. It was as if humanity did not want the galaxy to know what happened. And that was more frightening than the war itself. A galaxy on edge. The other species were divided. Some believed it was a lucky accident. Maybe the HFY hit a hidden minefield, or their ships malfunctioned. Humanity couldn't possibly stand against them, right? Others weren't so sure. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as a minor power. They had fewer planets, fewer fleets, and their technology was not the most advanced. But they had survived every war, every crisis. They always adapted. And now, in the greatest war of all, they were the only ones who weren't panicking. That meant something. The HFY planned their next move. Deep in the void of space, the HFY War Council gathered. Their leader, High Warlord Sci-Fi, was furious. "Humans do not simply erase an invasion fleet," he growled. "Something is wrong." The HFY were warriors, conquerors, destroyers of worlds. They had fought countless species. Some were strong, some were clever, but none had ever been silent like this. Silence meant a hidden blade. Sci-Fi decided on a new strategy. They would test humanity again. Not with a single fleet, not with a small attack. They would send a full-scale invasion. Their best generals, strongest warriors, and deadliest weapons. If humanity had any secrets, they would be forced into the open. The invasion fleet was prepared. Warships darkened the skies of the HFY homeworld, their cannons glowing with energy. This time, there would be no escape for humanity. Humanity moves in the shadows. Back on Earth, humanity's leaders watched without fear. The HFY thought they were launching a surprise invasion. They were wrong. Human intelligence networks had already discovered the attack plans. Every ship, every target, every strategy. Humanity knew everything. And instead of stopping the attack, they let it happen. Because they were planning something even bigger. Across human space, fleets moved in total silence. Advanced warships, invisible to scanners, slipped into enemy-controlled zones. Weapons never seen before were prepared in hidden stations. The HFY thought they were the hunters. But the truth was simple. Humanity was hunting them. A war unlike any before. As the HFY fleet approached its targets, they had no idea that every move had already been predicted. They didn't know that human ships were already waiting. They didn't realize that humanity had never planned to fight a normal war. Because humanity wasn't fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. And the galaxy was about to witness a war like nothing before. Humanity's silent preparation. The HFY fleet never returned from Colony 56. The Galactic Council waited for reports, expecting to hear of the colony's destruction. Instead, they heard nothing. No distress calls, no emergency signals, just silence. It was the same silence that had surrounded humanity since the war began. And that silence was terrifying. Whispers in the dark. Rumors spread across the galaxy. The HFY, undefeated until now, had suffered a mysterious loss. But no one knew what had happened. Their ships had vanished. Their soldiers never sent messages back. Alien spies tried to uncover the truth. They hacked into human networks, intercepted military transmissions, infiltrated secret bases. They found nothing. No victory celebrations, no warnings to other colonies, no broadcasts boasting about the HFY defeat. It was as if humanity did not want the galaxy to know what happened. And that was more frightening than the war itself. A galaxy on edge. The other species were divided. Some believed it was a lucky accident. Maybe the XL-FAR hit a hidden minefield, or their ships malfunctioned. Humanity couldn't possibly stand against them, right? Others weren't so sure. For centuries, humans had been dismissed as a minor power. They had fewer planets, fewer fleets, and their technology was not the most advanced. But they had survived every war, every crisis. They always adapted. And now, in the greatest war of all, they were the only ones who weren't panicking. That meant something. The XL-FAR planned their next move. Deep in the void of space, the XL-FAR War Council gathered. Their leader, High Warlord Sci-Fi, was furious. Humans do not simply erase an invasion fleet, he growled. Something is wrong. The XL-FAR were warriors, conquerors, destroyers of worlds. They had fought countless species. Some were strong, some were clever, but none had ever been silent like this. Silence meant a hidden blade. Sci-Fi decided on a new strategy. They would test humanity again. Not with a single fleet, not with a small attack. They would send a full-scale invasion. Their best generals, strongest warriors, and deadliest weapons. If humanity had any secrets, they would be forced into the open. The invasion fleet was prepared. Warships darkened the skies of the XL-FAR homeworld, their cannons glowing with energy. This time, there would be no escape for humanity. Humanity moves in the shadows. Back on Earth, humanity's leaders watched without fear. The XL-FAR thought they were launching a surprise invasion. They were wrong. Human intelligence networks had already discovered the attack plans. Every ship, every target, every strategy. Humanity knew everything. And instead of stopping the attack, they let it happen. Because they were planning something even bigger. Across human space, fleets moved in total silence. Advanced warships, invisible to scanners, slipped into enemy-controlled zones. Weapons never seen before were prepared in hidden stations. The XL-FAR thought they were the hunters. But the truth was simple. Humanity was hunting them. A war unlike any before. As the XL-FAR fleet approached its targets, they had no idea that every move had already been predicted. They didn't know that human ships were already waiting. They didn't realize that humanity had never planned to fight a normal war. Because humanity wasn't fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. And the galaxy was about to witness a war like nothing before. Humanity's true strength. The XL-FAR fleet staggered back to their territory, their warships battered and broken, not by brute force, but by something they could not understand. For the first time in their history, they did not know how they lost. There were no great battles, no glorious last stands. Their ships had simply vanished. And now, the XL-FAR leadership had to face a terrifying question. What is humanity hiding? A terrifying discovery. On the XL-FAR homeworld, scientists and warlords gathered, analyzing every piece of data from the battle. They studied the sensor logs, trying to understand the invisible weapons that had erased their ships. They examined the few survivors, warriors who spoke in hushed, shaken tones about an enemy that moved like shadows. And then they found something worse. The XL-FAR were known for their spies. For centuries, they had infiltrated enemy worlds, learning their weaknesses, predicting their strategies. So they had, of course, planted spies on Earth long before the war began. Those spies had sent regular reports for decades, but when the war started, they went silent. Not a single message, not a single transmission. It was as if they had simply disappeared. And then one final message arrived, broadcast from an unknown source. The XL-FAR intelligence officers played the message in the war chamber. A single human voice spoke. Calm, controlled, cold. We found them. The warlords froze. We know who they are, where they are. Silence filled the room. They no longer work for you. And then, the most terrifying words of all. They work for us now. The XL-FAR Intelligence Network, one of the most advanced in the galaxy, had been completely and silently taken over. They had not just lost ships. They had lost their ability to see. A message to the galaxy. As the HFY struggled to understand what was happening, a broadcast was sent across the galaxy. Every species, every leader, every warlord received the same transmission. A human face appeared on the screen. An older man, dressed in a simple military uniform, his expression unreadable. His name was Admiral Jonathan Kane, Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Initiative. His words were simple. The war is over. The leaders of the galaxy stared in confusion. The war had barely begun. How could he say this? Kane continued, his voice steady. The HFY believed they were superior. They were wrong. They believed they could strike without consequence. They were wrong. And now, they believe they still have a choice. They are wrong. Silence. Then, Kane leaned forward slightly. You are not fighting humanity. You are fighting something you cannot understand. And then, for the first time, the galaxy saw what had truly been happening in human space. The secret unveiled. The transmission changed. It showed entire planets, transformed into massive weapons factories. Armies of soldiers, trained in secret, standing in perfect formation, their eyes burning with calm determination. Warships beyond imagination, hidden in deep space, more advanced than anything ever seen. The HFY thought they were facing a small, weak species. In reality, they had walked into a war against a force that had been preparing for centuries. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. And now, they had decided to stop waiting. The final warning. Admiral Kane's face returned to the screen. HFY, you have one choice. Surrender, or be erased. Then the broadcast ended, and the galaxy realized the horrifying truth. This was not the beginning of humanity's war. This was humanity finishing it. The fall of the HFY. The HFY High Command was in chaos. Admiral Kane's message had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. And now, the unthinkable was happening. Fear had gripped the HFY Empire. Their fleets were powerful, their armies unmatched, but what they had seen in that transmission, that was not a war they could win. And deep down, they knew it. The first planet falls. Humanity did not wait for a response. While the HFY debated, human warships materialized inside their space, appearing out of nowhere, as if stepping out of the void itself. Their technology was beyond anything the HFY had ever encountered. Their ships moved without detectable energy signatures. Their weapons struck without warning. Their soldiers fought like they had already won. The first human assault was on Drazel Core, a heavily fortified HFY world, protected by orbital defenses and a massive fleet. It should have been impenetrable. Instead, it fell in hours. The human fleet never fired a single shot from orbit. Instead, something far worse happened. HFY warships simply shut down. Their weapons refused to fire. Their shields flickered and died. Their engines failed. And then the transmission started. Every screen, every communication device across the planet was taken over by a single message. A calm, human voice whispered, "Power is an illusion." And then the humans arrived. They descended onto the world in silence, wearing black, featureless armor. Their weapons did not fire projectiles or beams. Instead, they disassembled their enemies at a molecular level. The HFY never stood a chance. And when the battle ended, the humans did something that shook the entire galaxy. They did not conquer Drazel Core. They left, leaving behind a message. This was mercy. There will not be a second time. The HFY's desperate plan. With panic spreading through their empire, the HFY leaders made a desperate decision. If they could not defeat humanity in war, they would erase them from existence. The HFY had one final weapon, a planet killer, capable of unleashing a star-consuming anomaly that could wipe out entire solar systems. A doomsday device so terrible that even the HFY had never dared to use it before. They would launch it directly at Earth. If they couldn't win, they would drag humanity into the abyss with them. The device was activated. The countdown began. And then, it vanished. The final betrayal. The HFY control room erupted into chaos. One moment, their ultimate weapon was locked onto Earth. The next, it was simply gone, erased from existence. And then, the doors of the war chamber slammed open. A single HFY warrior stepped inside. But he was not alone. Behind him, human operatives emerged, silent, unreadable, their weapons still holstered. They did not need them. Because the betrayal was already complete, the HFY warrior knelt before his former leaders. His voice was calm, almost human-like. The war is over. We were never your warriors. We were their experiment. The High Warlord of the HFY staggered back in horror. The humans had never just fought the HFY. They had been inside their ranks all along, watching, learning, controlling. The war had never been about survival. It had been a test, and the HFY had failed. The war ends in silence. Across the HFY empire, entire fleets powered down. Cities fell quiet. The war was not lost through battle. It was lost from within. One by one, the HFY generals surrendered, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. Humanity had already won. The HFY were no longer an empire. They were no longer a species of conquerors. They were something else entirely now. They were under human control. A new galactic order. Admiral Kane's final message was simple. We did not want this war. But now that it has ended, understand this. The galaxy will never be the same. You feared the HFY, and yet they fell without a fight. Now ask yourselves, what does that mean for the rest of you? And with that, humanity disappeared once more into the shadows. Not conquerors, not invaders, something far worse. The true masters of the galaxy. The truth about humanity. The HFY empire had fallen without a final battle. Not because they lacked strength, not because they lacked strategy, but because they had never truly been in control of their own fate. And now, as the galaxy struggled to comprehend the impossible, one terrifying question remained unanswered. Who, or what, is humanity? The Watchers in the Dark. For centuries, the great empires of the galaxy had observed humanity from afar. They saw a species small in number, born on a world rich in life, but filled with endless conflict. They had watched as humans waged wars among themselves, as they fought, suffered, and rebuilt. They assumed humanity was like any other young species, ambitious, reckless, limited. But now, as the ashes of the HFY war settled, the galaxy was forced to confront a horrifying truth. Humanity had never been just another species. They had been watching the galaxy long before the galaxy had noticed them, and they had never once been unprepared. The lost civilizations. The HFY were not the first to challenge humanity. They were simply the first to survive the encounter. As galactic scholars combed through newly discovered human data vaults, they began finding records that should not exist. Records of ancient empires, long thought lost to time. Empires that had once ruled the stars, only to vanish without a trace. The records did not describe how these civilizations fell, only that humanity had been there, watching, waiting, and when the time came, removing. One after another, the galaxy's greatest mysteries unraveled. Every empire that had once sought total dominance had disappeared, and at the center of every disappearance, hidden in the shadows of history, lay a single undeniable connection. Humanity. A message from the void. Then, without warning, a final transmission appeared in the databases of every major species in the galaxy. A single human scientist, standing in a vast, empty control room. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes calm. And she spoke the words that would haunt the galaxy forever. You were never meant to know. The screen flickered, showing ancient battlefields, ruined cities, and the remains of long-dead empires. You believe we are new to this war, that we are young, that we are reckless. The images changed. Planets erased from existence. Fleets dissolved into nothingness. Species wiped from history itself. We have seen this pattern before. We have stopped it before. The scientist's face returned, her expression unreadable. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The screen flickered one last time. And then, the message deleted itself, without a trace, without a source, leaving behind only one terrifying realization. Humanity had always been there. And now, they were making themselves known. The endgame. The galaxy was in turmoil. The HFY were broken. The great empires, once mighty and arrogant, now trembled at the shadows lurking in the void. Because now, they knew the truth. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had never been new. Humanity had always been something more. And as the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the galaxy finally understood what they had unleashed. The architects of war. The war with the HFY was not humanity's first war. It was not even their greatest war. Deep in the archives of the oldest civilizations, researchers uncovered something that should not exist. Records that predated the known galactic era. Records of an ancient war. A war that consumed entire galaxies, fought between two forces beyond understanding. One of those forces had been erased from history, its name lost to time. The other, humanity, not as a single species, but as a force that had existed long before recorded time. The great empires had always believed themselves to be the rulers of the cosmos, expanding outward, discovering the universe. But what they failed to realize was that they had never been pioneers. They had simply been occupying the ruins of something far greater, something that humanity had buried. And now, humanity was awake again. The final warning. As the galaxy reeled from this revelation, another transmission was received. This time, from a location outside of known space. A colossal space station, dwarfing entire planets, appeared on long-range scanners. It had no markings, no energy signature. It had simply been waiting. Inside, Admiral Kane stood before a council of human leaders. His face was calm, but his eyes were calculating. They had allowed the galaxy to believe they were weak. They had let their enemies come to them. And now, the test was over. Kane looked at the screen, addressing the entire galaxy at once. You have seen what happens to those who seek war. You have witnessed what we are capable of. He leaned forward. Now, understand this. We do not rule. We do not conquer. But we do control. The screen flickered. It showed a map of the galaxy. And then, slowly, a second map was overlaid. A map that showed hidden human outposts, secret fleets, bases that had existed for thousands of years. They were everywhere. Every empire, every system, every so-called ruler. Humanity had always been there, watching, waiting. Kane's voice dropped to a whisper. You were never free. We have guided you, shaped you, chosen who rises and who falls. And now, you have a choice. Accept your place in the order we have built, or be removed from it. The transmission ended. The galaxy fell into silence, not because they were afraid of war, but because they finally understood the truth. They had never been the rulers of the stars. They had only ever been the pieces on humanity's chessboard. And the game had just ended. The legacy of the void. No one dared to speak. No fleets moved. No war was declared. Because now, the galaxy knew. Humanity was not just another species. They were the unseen force that had shaped everything. And whether the galaxy accepted it or not, They always had been. They always would be. The true masters of the void. The architects of destiny. The endgame of civilization itself.